Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. Today I thought I'd have another little chat about the Olympics, and I've just been reflecting. If you watched the Olympics today and you saw Usain Bolt winning the gold medal for the third time, and I was just thinking about these other guys that coming in second and third and fourth and fifth and all the way down the line, and how frustrating it must be to compete against this guy that's just dominating. And the problem for them is they know they're going to lose, which is pretty frustrating. Hi Isaac, thanks for joining, and thanks for not calling me while I'm doing this. And so they must know they're going to lose because this guy's so much better than everybody else, and he just seems to do it so much easier than everybody else. So it must be so frustrating thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to go to this Olympics thing and come second again. So that's, from their perspective, they must know they must be competing for who's going to come second. And the frustrating thing for that is you always feel like you're going to lose. And regardless of how well you do and how hard you try, they must be coming from the standpoint as, hey, I'm going to lose anyway. Let's hopefully I'm the best of the losers. They talk about, second's the first loser and all that sort of stuff. And I thought about it thinking, does that apply to the world of property? Are there winners? Are there losers? And does there have to be losers? At the end of the day, with the whole Olympics, it only works because there are losers. If everybody won, there'd be no Olympics because there'd be no big competition, and the competition is that's driven by people achieving, people being better than someone else, and so there has to be losers, otherwise there can't be a winner. So does that apply to property? Does there have to be losers with property, and does there have to be winners? So looking back on it, obviously this is meant to be things that the Olympics has taught me about property, but I don't think it actually has. I don't think in the world of property, I think there can be winners. And I think people have the perception, particularly in the world of, if they're looking at property developers or people that, property moguls that are going out and buying all these properties, they make the assumption that they're out there trying to take advantage of other people. And particularly property developers, people think they're all greedy and they're trying to, screw people over and do these developments and trying to make lots of money, and all they care about is the money. They don't care about what happens. But in reality, all they're doing is creating a product that people need and people want. And at the end of the day, if there's no need for what they're supplying, there'd be no demand, and they wouldn't be able to sell that product. So if they're trying to sell something to people that they don't want, then they're not going to make any money in the first place. Obviously, the end result of them, meeting those needs of the public is for them to, be remunerated financially, I suppose, but doesn't necessarily have someone gets taken advantage of. I've seen opportunities in the past where, it might be the situation where the person's not in the ability to be able to take advantage of an opportunity, in the fact they might have the knowledge, or they might not have the skills, or they might have the financial means, or they might be in a situation where they need to sell the property really quickly, and so they're happy just to sell the property knowing that they're leaving some profit into there for somebody else to be able to make some money out of, understanding that, hey, I'm just moving on, I'm going to the next deal, and then I don't have to worry about it. Or if you get a little old lady and she's living in an old house in a big block, she doesn't necessarily want to knock her house down and subdivide and develop the properties and build houses on it and rent them out or sell it off and all that sort of stuff. She just wants to sell a house. She's got to a certain point in her lifetime where it doesn't really matter. She just wants to move on and move down to, downsize the house and find a nice little unit close to, her family and friends, and get to a certain point where, it's not all about the money, I suppose. So, hey, Paul, thanks for joining. So that's probably where I think the perceptive of property developers is probably, being misled. And I'm not saying all property developers are angels, because obviously there's some are out there not doing the right thing, but you can actually create value and it not cost someone, in their financial benefits, I suppose. So, whether that means you buy a property that hasn't been renovated and you renovate it up and then you sell it off afterwards, is that taking advantage of somebody else because they chose not to renovate their property before they sold it? You'd probably hope that their agent would give them some advice to say, hey, you have the option of renovating a property. If you renovate it, it's going to be worth so much more money. And then they might make a conscious decision on whether they want to do it or not. As long as they've been fully informed, I think that's the most important thing. If they've been fully informed and they make a decision with all the information, and then they decide not to go ahead, then that's their choice. It's when they don't have all the information at hand, and then they've had to make a decision without all the information, and then they look back thinking, oh man, if I'd have only known that, I would have done something different. So that's why I don't necessarily think it applies in the world of property, because if you've got the information, you can become informed, you can make the decision, and if you make an informed decision and you choose not to take advantage of the opportunity as far as developing your property or renovating, or even even with just selling your property, if you're going to sell it, you want to make sure you market it as well as you possibly can. You know, it's amazing how often I see properties have, you know, terrible photos and, you know, terrible story. They don't have a video when they're marketing the property. You know, you go to the open inspections, the agent has put, you know, very little effort. The owner's put hardly effort in to try and present the property as well as they possibly can. You know, the question is, do you then feel sorry for the person because they haven't presented their property as well as they possibly could, or do you just say, hey, well, that's their choice. You know, they had the opportunity to, you know, spend a few dollars up front, have some really nice photos, you know, have a really good story, have some really good marketing, you know, present the property really well when people came to the open inspections. You know, that might cost them, you know, hundreds of dollars or maybe thousands of dollars, but knowing that's going to be tens of thousands, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 extra they might get for their property. You know, is that someone taking advantage of someone because they're buying a property they can see is being undersold? You know, I probably wouldn't say so. You know, at the end of the day, if it's their choice not to put the effort in up front, and people have options, and people become informed. You know, things like this video here. There's plenty of opportunities. You know, there's books you can get out there. There's, you know, podcasts and DVDs and a whole pile of information. You just go off and talk to a whole pile of agents and get their advice on what they think the best thing is to do. And then you really just need to make a judgment on what's going to be the best option for you. And that best option for you doesn't necessarily have to equate to making the most amount of money. It might be the most efficient way of selling your house, or the easiest way for selling your house, or the way that makes you put in the least amount of effort. So, and likewise, you know, you look at the other option of, you know, just buying a property and hang on to it and waiting for the market to go up over time. You know, capital gains, they call it. You know, is that taking advantage of everybody? I don't really think so, because really at the end of the day, that's all about supply and demand. You know, people want to live where they want to live, so that's the demand. And when there's limited supply, because there's limited properties available, then if there's more demand than there is supply, then the prices are going to go up. So is that taking advantage of anybody? Is the fact that property prices have gone up taking advantage of anybody? I wouldn't say it is. It's just basically basic supply and demand. It's basic economics. So, you know, is that necessarily anyone's fault that the market's gone up because people want to live where that person's owned the property, and over time the market's gone up? So I probably wouldn't say it was. So this is probably an example where I think the Olympics hasn't really had something to teach us. I don't think, you know, looking at winners and losers, as far as, you know, the Olympics revolves around winners and losers basically. And you look at you know, to get one Usain Bolt, you know, that wins one 100-meter race, there might be hundreds of people, probably thousands of people have competed to get to that point where they're competing against that final 8 with the one guy, Usain Bolt's just going to dominate. You know, so that's thousands of losers for one winner. Whereas in the world of property, no one technically has to lose. Everybody can, as long as everyone's informed and they make decisions with all the information at hand, then no one's being taken advantage of. So I suppose the most important thing is to make sure people have access to all the information, so people can make an educated and informed decision, and then people make their choice, and so no one's being taken advantage of them. So hopefully that's made sense to you. If you know someone's thinking about developing or selling or renting, and the other thing too, sometimes I talk to people about developing properties or selling properties off, and, you know, I explain to them ways that they can sell their property for tens of, you know, even $100,000 more than it otherwise may be worth if they just sell it as is. And sometimes they feel a little bit guilty. They're like, well, why should I get so much more money just by doing this small thing and adding, you know, it just seems like I'm doing a relatively small amount of effort and I'm making, you know, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars more. You know, it just seems like it's not fair. But I'm saying to them, you're not taking advantage of anyone. Basically, the people that are buying it off you, they're buying it at market price. You know, if they had the choice, you know, they can go off and find a cheaper property, but they can't because you're selling it at a fair price. If you're overpricing the property or you're misleading people and telling them they're getting something that they're not, then that's obviously misrepresenting what you're selling. But if you're honest and open and upfront with what they're actually getting, then it's totally fair. So, yeah, hopefully it's made sense to you. If you've liked what I had to say, then click on the like button. If you haven't liked it, still click on the like button anyway, because I'd really appreciate it. If you know someone's out there struggling with the winners and losers thing, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they haven't got in the property, because they feel like, you know, it's about trying to take advantage of other people. And in reality, it's not. You know, it's about trying to create value. And if you're creating value, you're not taking advantage of anybody because you're giving them something that's valuable and they're paying you for it. So there's nothing bad about it at all. So click on the share button if you think someone would find that interesting. And if you've got something you've noticed about the Olympics you find might be interesting in the world related to the world of property, then put a comment in the comments box. Or if this has touched a nerve with you, then put a comment in there. I'd really appreciate your feedback. And I look forward to talking to you again next time. Bye.